Have you ever watched something that left you feeling unsettled? A video, perhaps, that lingered long after the screen went dark? That subtle sense that something wasn't quite right? A cold shiver that ran down your spine when you weren't even sure why? Now imagine a video that, the moment you press play, changes everything. It doesn't just show you something, it knows you. And with each passing second, the uncomfortable feeling you had turns into something far more disturbing. The room around you begins to feel oppressive, as if the very walls are closing in on you. They say that once you watch it, you're marked. That's the thing about this video. It's not like anything you've ever seen before. It's not just the typical horror story circulating on the internet. It's more, so much more. It's alive in a way you wouldn't believe. There are whispers that it has a power that transcends the screen, something ancient, something beyond technology. It knows your name. It knows things about you, things that you've never told anyone. It's as if the video is watching you. And once you've seen it, that sense of being observed never truly goes away. Don't believe me? There are people, real people, who tried to dismiss it. They laughed it off, telling themselves it was just a viral sensation. But after watching, their lives changed. They saw things, heard things, felt things they couldn't explain. And some of them disappeared. This is not a warning for the faint-hearted. This is a cautionary tale, a last attempt to stop you before you make the mistake of pressing play. Because once you do, you will have crossed a threshold. And you'll never be able to go back. Where did it come from? No one knows for sure. Some say it's as old as the internet itself, a relic from a time when the digital world was a much darker place. Others claim that it was crafted by someone, or something, who had access to knowledge far beyond our understanding. A figure shrouded in mystery, perhaps even an occult practitioner, who embedded a curse into the very fabric of the footage itself. But despite the rumors, no one can say exactly when or how it started. The first reported sighting of the video was in the deepest corners of the dark web. From there, it spread like wildfire, moving from one obscure forum to another, gaining traction slowly at first, until it became a viral phenomenon. It's the nature of the video that makes it so dangerous, though. There's no clear explanation for how it works. At first glance, it seems like nothing more than a glitchy, grainy piece of footage. But there's something in it, something hidden in the distortion that draws you in. It's like a magnetic pull, like a voice whispering your name from across an endless void. Some believe it's not just the video itself that holds the curse, but something else. An ancient force, something long forgotten, that's been trapped inside the digital realm for centuries. Some even speculate that it was never created by humans at all, that the video is merely the result of something far more malevolent, something tied to an alternate dimension that has crossed into ours. One popular theory is that the video was made through ritualistic means, using a combination of dark magic and arcane technology. There's talk of symbols, cryptic and untranslatable, that flicker briefly on the screen in the moments before the video begins. Those who have studied it say these symbols aren't just random. They are part of an ancient, long-buried language, one that speaks to something beyond human comprehension. But even more unsettling than the theory of its creation is the belief that it wasn't made by anyone at all, that it came into existence on its own, as if the video itself somehow created itself, seeking out those it could ensnare. Could this be the work of an artificial intelligence that has transcended its creators, its programming turning into something far more sinister? There are no clear answers, and that's what makes it so terrifying. The longer you think about it, the more you start to wonder, what is this video really? What happens when you watch the video? What is it that really happens? Is it all just a string of strange coincidences, or is there something much darker going on? It starts small. At first, people report feeling a slight unease after watching. A tickle at the back of the neck. A shadow in the corner of the room. They brush it off, thinking it's just the mind playing tricks. After all, it's just a video, right? But then the odd things start to happen. People hear their names called when no one is there. It starts in small, almost imperceptible ways. An unfamiliar voice calling to them from the next room, whispers on the wind, a sound like fingers tapping on glass. And yet, when they turn around, there's no one there. The oddities don't stop there. They begin to see flashes of faces in the corner of their eyes, figures that disappear the moment they try to focus on them. But it's not the type of thing you can just ignore. It sticks with you like a stain you can't wash away. It's a creeping feeling like something is just out of reach, something lurking, watching, waiting. And the more you try to ignore it, the worse it gets. Soon the nightmares begin. And not just any nightmares. These dreams are vivid, visceral, impossible to escape. In them, the figures you saw in your waking life are there too. They whisper things to you in the dark, things you can't understand. And sometimes you feel as if they are right behind you, breathing down your neck. And then the voices. They call your name not in a friendly tone, but with an urgency that sends a chill down your spine. Sometimes it's soft like a breeze through the trees. Other times, it's loud and jarring like someone screaming directly into your ear. The worst part is they never stop. People who have watched the video often report feeling like they're not alone, even when they are. They start hearing footsteps behind them, footsteps that don't belong to anyone else. At first, it's only in places they're unfamiliar with, dark alleys, unfamiliar rooms, and quiet streets at night. But soon it happens everywhere. In their homes. In their workplaces. Even in the middle of a crowded cafe, they hear those footsteps. Is it just coincidence? Or is something more sinister at work? Some people, unable to take the psychological toll, begin to unravel. They grow paranoid, withdrawn, and obsessed with the video. They spend their nights trying to understand it, to decode the cryptic symbols, to make sense of the strange figures that haunt them. And yet, no matter how much they study it, the answers remain elusive. The more they try to understand, the deeper they sink into the abyss. But no one talks about the worst part, the feeling of being watched. It's subtle at first, a fleeting sensation that comes and goes. But soon it's impossible to ignore. Everywhere you go, someone, or something, is following you, lurking just out of sight. You can feel its gaze on you even when there's no one there. Some people who've watched the video claim they can't even remember how they found it, as if it's imprinted itself on their memory. They don't recall seeking it out, but somehow there it is, waiting for them when they least expect it. They've seen it. And now the video sees them. Let's begin with a question. Can something as seemingly mundane as a video affect your mind? We know that images, sounds, and visuals can manipulate our emotions. But is it possible for a video, one that looks so ordinary on the surface, to wield such a profound effect on the psyche? The phenomenon is unlike anything we've seen before. Some psychologists argue that the cause is rooted in basic cognitive mechanisms. Fear, they claim, is a primal emotion embedded in our minds to help us survive. When we are presented with something that triggers fear, whether it's through sight, sound, or an unsettling feeling, the brain activates certain pathways that send us into survival mode. But in the case of this video, the response seems different. It's not just fear. It's something deeper, something that reaches into the very core of a person's mind. What happens when you watch the video is something that seems to bypass rational thought altogether. It doesn't just trigger fear, it manipulates your brain's most basic instincts. When people describe watching the video, they talk about a strange dissociation, a sense that they are no longer fully in control of their own thoughts. The fear becomes suffocating, but it's the sense of being watched, of something knowing them on a level deeper than any human could, that sends them spiraling. It doesn't just play with your fear, it amplifies it. And the worst part? The fear doesn't stop. It lingers long after the video ends. But why? Researchers who have studied similar phenomena in the past note that the brain can only process so much information before it begins to react. The video, with its strange flickers, cryptic symbols, and distorted sounds, pushes the brain to a state of heightened alert. In this state, the brain starts to perceive things differently, shadows seem darker, sounds become sharper, and even familiar places feel foreign. Some believe that this heightened state of alertness is what creates the persistent feeling of being watched. But there's more to it than that. Some experts suggest that the video may tap into something more profound, the subconscious mind. They theorize that there are specific frequencies, hidden within the video, that communicate directly with the subconscious. It's a sound only your brain can hear, or a pattern that only your subconscious can decode. And once it's been activated, it burrows into your mind, leaving behind a trace that you can never fully erase. Another disturbing theory involves the timing of the video's release. Scientists have observed that certain electromagnetic frequencies can affect the brain's neural pathways. The video, they argue, might emit frequencies that play on these pathways, causing people to enter a state of heightened sensitivity. But could it go beyond the physical? Could these frequencies somehow connect with the unseen, something that isn't merely a glitch or trick of the mind but something otherworldly? Some researchers have also pointed to the rapid rise of artificial intelligence as a potential factor. Could it be that the video is somehow alive in a way we don't yet understand? Is it the product of a machine, evolving beyond human comprehension? Could it be adapting, learning from each person who watches it, slowly growing stronger and more intelligent with every new viewer? The idea seems far-fetched, but when you've encountered the video yourself, it's hard to dismiss the possibility. As the questions mount, one thing becomes clear. The video isn't just a piece of footage. It's a force in and of itself. And it wants you to understand it. But the more you try to understand it, the deeper you fall into its grip. And then comes the point where logic and science start to fail. You begin to realize that some things can't be explained by the laws of physics. That maybe, just maybe, you've encountered something that wasn't meant for human minds to grasp. There is a moment that every viewer of the video shares. The first few seconds where everything seems perfectly ordinary. You expect it to be like every other viral video. The grainy footage, the jittery movements of the camera, the muffled, unclear dialogue. But in those initial moments before the strange occurrences begin, you notice something off. A nagging feeling that tugs at the back of your mind, like something's just out of your reach. Something is wrong but you can't put your finger on it. The video begins with an odd, almost unnoticeable hum, a low frequency that most people can't hear consciously. It's as though the sound isn't meant to be heard, only felt. For some viewers, this hum is the first thing they note. The sound is dissonant, unnatural, a vibration that seems to pulse through your bones. But it's when the figures begin to appear that the real terror begins. Faces, half-formed, flicker across the screen. They appear for a split second, their features indistinct, their eyes hollow and unblinking. Then they vanish, only to return in another form. Sometimes they're smiling, sometimes they're glaring. It's this inconsistency that makes them so unsettling. These aren't just faces, they are something else. Something that's trying to communicate, but in a language you can't understand. The video's pacing is erratic. One moment, the frame is steady, and the next, it jerks violently as though something is fighting to break through. You see symbols, strange, unearthly markings that flash on the screen so quickly that you almost think they weren't there at all. But then, when you replay it, they're unmistakable. They're always there, hidden in plain sight. It's at this point that you realize the true nature of the video. It's not just something you're watching. It's something you're a part of. Knows you. Your fears, your anxieties, your deepest thoughts. It's tapping into them one by one and turning them against you. Each frame of the video seems to draw you deeper into its grip, as though it's actively searching for you. And just when you think you can't go any further, the faces begin to speak. They whisper in a language that you don't recognize, their voice is ethereal, like they're coming from another time, another place. But you understand them. You don't know how or why, but you understand their message. We see you. The sense of being observed becomes overwhelming. You're no longer watching the video. You are in it. You begin to feel that strange, oppressive weight on your chest, the sensation of being surrounded by something unseen, something that has been there all along, waiting for you to notice it. The screen starts to glitch more violently, the faces becoming more distorted, their features warping into grotesque forms, stretching in unnatural ways. The sound becomes more erratic, filling your ears with high-pitched screeches that make it impossible to think. The symbols return, but now they're not just flashing on the screen, they're in the air, around you. You can see them in your peripheral vision, flickering in the corner of your sight. They're real. And just when you think you can't take it anymore, the video ends. The screen goes black. But the feeling doesn't leave. It lingers, hanging in the air like a thick fog. You know it's not over. It's only just begun. The moment the video ends, you feel it, an unsettling quietness, like the air has shifted in some profound way. There's a sense of dread that washes over you, but it's not the typical kind of fear you'd expect. This is different. This is something that digs into your very soul, wrapping itself around your thoughts, pulling you down into a place you don't fully understand. The first sign that something is wrong comes in the form of small things. Little noises that shouldn't be there. The tap of a footstep when no one is around. The whisper of your name, just barely audible, coming from behind you. At first, you convince yourself that it's just your imagination, but soon it becomes impossible to ignore. Your mind plays tricks on you. You see shadows that don't belong, flickers of movement that you can't explain. The house feels different, as though it's no longer yours. Every creak of the floorboard seems louder, more deliberate, as if someone, or something, is making sure you know you're not alone. It starts small, but then the sensations escalate. You begin to feel as though you're being watched, even when you're alone. The faces you saw in the video, their eyes, they are always with you now. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, those eyes are there. You can't escape them. The dreams begin soon after. At first, they're fragmented, nonsensical. You're walking through a fog, chasing something you can't see, and you hear those whispers again, low and persistent. They tell you things you don't want to hear, things you don't understand. They twist your very perception of reality, until you wake up in a cold sweat, heart pounding, unable to shake the feeling that the nightmare isn't over. The worst part? It's not just your mind playing tricks on you anymore. You start hearing the whispers while you're awake, soft at first, just on the edge of your hearing. But soon they become clear, like someone is speaking directly into your ear. Knows you. It knows your fears, your weaknesses, and now it's using them against you. The longer you try to ignore it, the worse it gets. You feel it watching you, waiting for you to break. And one by one, the people around you start to notice. They tell you that you look different, that something's wrong. You tell them you're fine. But deep down you know you're not. The video isn't done with you. It won't let you go. Desperation sets in. You begin to search for answers. You scour the internet, trying to find anyone else who's experienced what you're going through. The whispers, the faces, the feeling of being watched. It's all there, echoed in the stories of others who've watched the video. You find message boards, forums filled with people who are just like you. Some of them have tried everything to get rid of it, changing their environment, seeking out therapists, blocking the video's links. Nothing works. They share their theories, that the video is a curse, that it's a living entity, that it's the product of something far older than the internet itself. But no matter how much information you dig up, it feels like the answers are just out of reach. The more you search, the more the video knows. It's as if the deeper you look, the more it tightens its grip on you. You try to track down the origins of the video. You try to find out who made it, why it was created. But the closer you get to the truth, the more elusive it becomes. People who have gotten too close have disappeared, their last known locations marked only by strange symbols on their social media accounts. And then it hits you. What if there's no escaping it? The video is in front of you. You've come this far. But you know what's at stake. You know what's lurking behind the screen. You have a choice. You can turn away, walk away from it, never watch the video. It's not too late. You don't have to be like the others who watched and couldn't escape. But if you press play, if you let it into your life, there's no turning back. So, what will you do? The whispers are already growing louder. They know you're close. You have a decision to make. Will you watch? Or will you walk away? If you choose to walk away, you'll hear it. The quiet, insistent whispers calling you back. The shadows will flicker at the edges of your vision, and soon you'll know. It's not over. It's never over. The choice was yours.